I'll start.
Sure.
Um, it, it's it's such an important topic in so many ways for all ethnicities and races and everything. Um, but one of my biggest fears is mob mentality. So I've never been somebody who's really, I've never contributed to a protest, like physically and been in one because even religious things, sometimes you get a mob mentality, and that is just a really scary feature on it. So as much as I might donate or definitely sign things, actually participating in the protests is uncomfortable for me because
Mhm.
I get nervous about that kind of thing. So
Understood.
yeah.
And like I see it all the time. There's lots of memes that are going around that's point out that like actively participating in the protest is not the only way that you can help, and people mention, like you said, like being able to donate, being able to uh, be a comrade in arms are great, and just as helpful and sometimes more so helpful than the actual protest itself. All that being said, um, I like, not with any pressure or guilt or shame or anything like that. Like, definitely check it out. Like, even if you do it like early one day, like in the mid morning, mid afternoon, before the crowds get really rowdy, because it is amazing to see the number of people that are willing to show up and the color of people that are willing to show
Yeah.
up. That's the thing that blows me away. Like, I've been to like two or three differently organized protests, and the rainbow of colors, like the universality of this doesn't hit you until you are surrounded by thousands of people that look different. It's not a homogenous group. um, yeah, even if you're just like going and stopping in, saying hi, saying bye, just taking off, definitely give yourself the opportunity to check it out, because I think it is a wonderful, wonderful experience to be a part of. And that's my 2 cents. How about the other gentleman on the screen?
Fernando, you want to go, buddy?
Yeah, like I'm not fairly new here, but I had like such ignorance about, like, I knew in some sorts, but I had no idea how intense and aggressive, the level of racism was here. And it just blew my mind. More I read, more I know, and more I research. It's very astonishing, shocking. And I mean, where I came from, there was slavery, but I mean, it's such a bizarre, different way. The racism there, it's almost like, I mean, there I say in Brazil, it's still depends where you go, but it become more that it's more like a social racism than a racist by color. You know what I mean? Like. It's like because the people are so diverse, it's almost impossible unless you're super ignorant. It's very rare. Like, I feel the polarity by color of the skin was more like a social racist. And and I was like so hopeless when I heard that, like, Bernie is not gonna be able to run. You know, but now, like, I think at the end, like, I think the COVID is helping the Black Lives Matter too, because more people are able to join and feel, because everybody on the struggle feel and share, and everybody should be aware, like, all the struggles that, a black person, like, suffers. And the no, like, I mean, I don't know how you can have hope, like, because I mean, you see, like, the actions of the police always, stop and frisk, always, like, always profiling people, and how really aggressive they are. And it's good that people are more united. I mean, even with the high risk of COVID, like, I think the momentum now, it's giving a better bright, and the kick is gonna be stronger. Now we are finally talk about the funding and the demilitarization, even though with a crook Congress, with a crook, like, president, and everybody surrounding. you know, the momentum is much larger than, you know, remember the last years of Obama, there was a conversation and let's investigate some, you know, the police departments, let's change the model, but never changed that time. And the Black Lives Matter, possibly, I mean, I have a hope, I gotta have hope, possibly,
That's a
something,
really good point. That's with
some,
everyone suffering for because of the COVID, it's going to make it um, something that people can unite a little bit more than they normally would. Because a lot of times you have a lot of very outspoken people.
yeah, but
And in this case, we maybe can make
and
some.
and and it's a little hard to believe because I mean at the end you're gonna have, you know, law, but it's good to see the momentum and you see companies, you can bet some companies are just doing a PR, but there is some very like bold steps that I think I never seen before, and hopefully all the, you know, the suffering that the people, you know, constantly, of course you're not going to change overnight, but that's a good like step forward. Finally we're talking about going forward and not seeing like, you know, the last 3 4 years everything going backwards and forgotten. So yeah, sorry, like it took a little longer, but I have a hope, and we gotta keep fighting for, we gotta donate, we gotta keep engaging, and you need to make people accountable. It's not just go to the booth and vote and sit and wait another, you know, 4 years 5 years. You gotta go aggressive, and you know, I want to put myself on a, you know, on the front line too. It just, you know, sometimes rather play safe, you know, have kids to feel, but I take my hat for the protesters, I take my hat for Black Lives Matter, and you know, I think finally we're towards like a good progress. So hopefully we're gonna be able to grow this and make people, you know, deserve, uh, uh, reduce the inequality, and you know, get the bullies, get the racists, get the, you know, fucking white power, whatever. Like you know, we gotta, this thing gotta, people gotta be accountable. It's just sick when you see like the amount, all the shit, violence every day, police like killing people here and there, everywhere. I mean, bad apples, man, there is shit tons of apples. Like we need to do applesauce with those motherfuckers, and you know, they gotta be all accountable. So let's hope, let's fight.
Can
Yeah.
I ask like a not off track question, but I've got a couple of now not really friends anymore, more acquaintances, but they used to be close friends, and they just use they're two white blonde girls. Well, one's a redhead, one's a lesbian, and they use this Black Lives Matter as just a way for them to vent on Facebook and all their social media. How do you guys feel about that? Because it really aggravates me sometimes. Because
Depends what kind of venting you're talking about.
well, they are act well. I mean, in one case with the friend who's a lesbian, she's had to deal with things that the pretty blonde white girl has not had to deal with, and they are so passionate about the cause, which I get, but then they act like it's. I just have a hard time that they may not have experienced things that those who are fighting for have, and so and then they go on and on and on and on forever on things, and it's I don't know how to react to that at all because I can't say much. I mean, I've seen a lot, and I've lived in another country where I was the minority there, and it just I don't. I'm curious what you guys have to say about that kind of thing when you have a pretty white blonde girl going crazy, you know, and pretending it's well, I don't know. It's it's hard to grasp your hands around, I guess. So, any thoughts?
Um, I have so many complex thoughts about this entire crisis, this entire situation, and I've discussed some of them with Louis. Remind me, guys, did we talk about this last week at all?
Yes, we did a
We
little
A
did.
little
bit.
bit.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I told you about my first experience when I came here. Um,
You've
it,
told me, but I don't think we talked about it last week.
Yeah, so I don't remember us talking about it last week, but basically I arrived in the United States in 1990, exactly 3 decades ago, and I set foot for the first time on American soil at JFK Airport, and it was a different time, obviously, but I came from a very homogeneous society in terms of ethnicity, religion, socially homogeneous. We didn't even have, all we had was middle class. We didn't have social layers. It was very, because of communism. So I'm arriving at JFK, and the first thing that struck me was the just cornucopia of color of so many people of different backgrounds, different ethnicities, different faiths. I will never forget, it was amazing to me. There was an Orthodox Jewish guy, a Hasidic guy in the Orthodox Jewish garb, and he was talking at one of the stores at JFK. He was talking to this Muslim woman who's at the cashier, and she was a Muslim woman covered. She was covered, and he was talking to her in a very friendly manner, and they were laughing and making jokes. And I looked at this, and I was in disbelief. I had never seen anything like this in my life. I realized, or at least in my mind, I built a instant model of this society. And in this model was, now looking back, very naive. I assumed that this is a society that has found a way to function harmoniously and push society forward, achieve progress step by step together in harmony and synergy. And later on in '94, we got married with Jamie.
Hey,
And
Jamie.
can you see her,
She
Jamie?
just logged in. Jamie, you're muted right now. Just like it's set to auto mute when you. There you go. Perfect.
See her.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, perfect.
You're trying to shut me up, Louis. I don't like pull this bullshit about auto mute on me, buddy. There you go.
She can chime in perfectly. Perfect timing, by the way, Jamie, because I was just talking about our marriage in '94 and
Are we
how,
married?
yeah, and how it took me about 6 years. It took some time for me, and convincing and for practical reasons, to put my foot on the pedal and actually get an American citizenship. And when I was
Do you have
actually,
dual, or do you have dual, or are you only American?
well, America doesn't,
Depends on what country you're in.
yeah, America doesn't believe in dual citizenship.
Well,
To
yes,
get a,
I have.
America doesn't recognize, United States do not recognize dual citizenship, but in Bulgaria, we recognize dual citizenship. So in Bulgaria, I am both, and in America, I'm just an American. But
There's a list of countries that U.S. allows to have dual citizenship, because I have dual as
oh,
well,
really?
and they're
I have dual too.
Mhm.
I didn't know that. When I was taking the oath, it was one of the requirements that you renounce
You
your
had to
people.
relinquish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since
Oh,
I was
true.
born in another country and then had American parents, I'm able to have both and it's not one of the countries that is restricted, because there are certain countries that they're just like, nope. But I guess Peru is under the radar. So.
Yeah, good.
Mhm.
Well, anyway, I made that step, and in the year 2000, 6 years later, I became a citizen. I took the oath, and it was a beautiful ceremony. It was very touching. But for me personally, I had to justify this step, not just for practical reasons, but also ideologically. I felt like within myself, I had to find that space that allows me to become American for like more pure reasons than just that, for the kids to, to not face any trouble, in terms of inheritance and practical reasons. So I rationalized it, and it came very easily and organically to me. I remember that first day when I arrived, and I remember the feeling I had that this is an advanced society. This is a place that is ahead of the rest of the world. And I felt that it was a place where I've always belonged without even knowing it. It was a place that I didn't know existed, a place that I needed in my heart, and a place that made sense to me. And so I became a citizen. I took the oath, and then I wrote immediately a very long article, a very long letter, and about this experience, about becoming an American citizen and what it meant. And I sent the letter to the Kansas City Star, which they immediately published every word of it. They didn't edit one single word. And then 20 years later, it's 2020 now. It's been 20 years. My children are now almost the same age that I was when I came to the United States. And I look back at that essay that I wrote, and I wonder if it was justified for me to write that essay, that maybe I was too naive and I believed it's something that didn't really exist. It was probably a utopian construct in
But
my mind.
times change, and I'm really curious if like that same essay were to be sent to the Kansas City Star today, if they would print any
They
words of it.
probably wouldn't. They probably wouldn't. We've become so much more cynical since then. The internet barely existed back then. And, ever since the internet infiltrated our social, our social texture, we become much more cynical. And, there's almost no place for idealism like this. But also, I realized that America was not what I imagined it to be, that there was like an undertow of racism. It's not the kind of racism you see on European soccer stadiums. It's a different kind of racism. It's racism that's sometimes more dangerous because it's subtle and it's everywhere, and it's
Deep.
kind
It's
of
deep.
embedded in history, and it's lethal. It's lethal. It kills innocent, unarmed people all the time because it's wearing a veneer of justice, but it's there, and it's dangerous. And from Lewis, I've learned so much about what it meant to grow up Black and to deal with this kind of racism on a daily basis, to be afraid to drive your car, to be afraid every time you see the people in blue, and to be afraid for your children. And now, I talked to Lewis about it when all of this transpired, and I felt like things in a bizarre way are coming full circle, because in a weird way, I felt like telling Lewis, maybe we should think about packing up the kids, and in case another second term of this madness continues, and go back to Bulgaria, but all together this time with his kids and his family.
I'm
And
going to. I'm going to.
be safe, and and it's just, I don't feel that the country as it is right now, and if it doesn't undergo major change, is safe for minorities.
I think the country's been the way it's always been, and I think we have a leader that is reinforcing this underlying level of racism, and that combined with this echo chamber of the internet that we call Facebook or Twitter or whatever the hell. I'm not on social media very much, so whatever those echo chambers are that we put ourselves in purposely, right? So we unfriend people we don't want to hear from, we get frustrated from, and I think we shouldn't do all of that. But I think that all of that combination is bringing out that ugly part of America that's always been there. And I think that combined with just coming off the cusp of electing a black president, right? And now an idiot leader in chief that now flames that base that's always been there. So I think it's just been hidden. I think it's an underbelly. I think people like Fernando and Lewis can tell you, sorry, you can say that all of this is horrible and awful, but my guess is long before Donald Trump came into office, Lewis's family, Fernando himself, his family were afraid when they saw police officers and sirens and large crowds. And but again, that's me coming from my white privilege, so they probably should talk versus me.
I think it's can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
You made a small step for man and a giant leap for mankind.
Yeah, you on Mars? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm on the moon now. Yeah.
Mooning.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want that. Nobody wants that. Yeah, it is. I think you hit on a lot of like really, really salient points, Jamie. And I have been like the one person on this podcast that has been adamant that what we are seeing is not all Trump's fault. And I had been in the habit of saying that Trump was a symptom, but I've changed that recently. I truly do believe now that Trump is his own disease.
Please.
Yeah. And that's not to say that racism wasn't a problem before, but it is, typical of a medical comorbidity where one disease makes the other worse. That
So
is
we have
what we're seeing.
racism, and he's the genital warts
Exactly.
to our racism.
Exactly.
Stable genius.
And
Sorry
so
to interrupt. Just wanted to let you know that Alena joined us, and
I can see Alena. Alena!
She's one of us that actually went and participated actively in the protests in both Kansas City and Lawrence.
Tell us what you saw.
Other than COVID.
I think people were actually pretty cognizant of that as much as they could be when they weren't being like, at least in Kansas City, people were being more like kettled together.
Mm-hmm.
So the police were sort of like surrounding us as we were like marching, and then directing us back to the park over and over again. And they tear gassed the park a couple times.
Were you there during the tear gas?
Yeah. I wasn't very brave. I'll say that.
Uh-huh.
I normally backed up.
Right.
A lot of people will like push farther into it,
Uh-huh.
and then they come back with like tear gas all over their face. And
Yeah.
it was a lot, and they were tear gassing people while they were like very peacefully protesting, I thought. Like,
very brave for going in the first place. You said you're not brave, but you were very brave to go there in the first place. So
Yeah, I wanted to just chime in a little bit because I spoke to a friend of mine who is a member of the police, and not in the United States, in Bulgaria, but he told me something interesting about the rubber bullets. So a guy in Kansas City was blinded in one eye by a rubber bullet. A 59-year-old woman that was going shopping is in a coma, hit in the head by a rubber bullet. And a photojournalist, a really good photojournalist, is blind in one eye because of a rubber bullet. The rubber bullets apparently are, in many cases, not rubber. They have a metal core that is covered with a thin layer of polymer. And they're extremely dangerous. They're for crowd control, but they're only supposed to be used in the lower extremities or shot in the ground. Anytime you shoot a rubber bullet towards the human being, towards the torso or the shoulders or above the shoulders, you're risking killing that person. They're extremely dangerous, extremely dangerous. And the police, I've heard from many sources, are using those rubber bullets indiscriminately, shooting at people like they were targets and just treating them like cattle, like animals.
yeah, they were using rubber bullets a little bit in Kansas City.
Yes.
And I saw a couple people with like pretty nasty bruises afterwards. Like,
Yeah.
I think if you're like thinner, it might like really mess you up, like break a lot of bones or something.
Yeah. So the
So
bullet
if
leave the.
we've gained COVID weight, we're safer then at the protests. If we've gained, all, if I gain my
How
COVID
can I say
20,
that?
I'm like, okay, let's go. Sorry.
So the bullet leaves the nozzle with velocity of 300 feet per second. What makes them not as lethal is that they're a little bigger and they lose velocity as they travel. But man, that's just a very dangerous thing. The tear gas, when I was in the Army, part of the Army experience was we had to experience tear gas. So what they gassed us with, we had to enter a closed, room
Oh,
and get gassed. So what the gas was called chlorpicrin. It was a standard tear gas, and it was a nightmare. They just splashed liquid on the floor, and
it
that
hurt.
evaporated instantly. And then we had gas masks. They made us take off the gas masks for just 2-3 seconds and put them back on. But then
So
for the rest of the day, it was excruciating. We were crying, screaming, rubbing our eyes. It was just horrific. So that's what.
So just asking, did everyone experience tear gas in your lives? I did.
Yeah, I
Really?
did.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I'm just checking because it's freaking awful. That's I mean, I see they spray on their face like they're having fun. Like, it's bizarre. Like how pathetic, and I mean how sick is those actions, and rubber bullet, and it's
So pushing 75-year-old man to the ground and letting him bleed out of his ear was horrific to see. Elderly abuse. And then what was even more horrible to watch was these people stepping over him and not even trying to help this poor man. And then we have a guy in the White House who tweets a ridiculous conspiracy theory about a poor old man. That's where we are, and it's absolutely shocking that we've deteriorated so fast. And Jamie brought it up. And she's so right. It's not just the 3.5 years of this madness. Really, the powers of racism and the agents of chaos were galvanized by the Obama presidency. We had a truly centrist president. If you look at Obama's policies, he tried to stay in the middle, to balance the country. He tried consciously to unite us. Even his ACA, even his signature plan was the Mitt Romney plan. It was in the middle, his Obamacare, and he tried so hard. And yet all that his presidency did, all that these 8 years did, was galvanize the worst of the worst. Created the Tea Party, created the extreme far right, the insane websites, all of this. I don't know, it was probably going to happen anyway, but instead of making a leap forward, we actually are now looking at dragging our country 50 years back into history. So sad.
I know this is very sad, but on a completely unrelated note, as you move, Evo, you're fading in and out of Fernando like a 90s video. It's like this fantastic visual effect.
Yeah,
Louis,
but it's
you
also a metaphor. It's
your
also a
headphones
metaphor.
keep going like this with whatever picture you are, so it looks like you're getting like really big ears and then going back in and stuff.
This is also a metaphor of how connected I am with Orlando's mentality, with Fernando's mentality. We are part of each other, and I enjoy Joe Exotic's background really very much.
You like me and the tiger?
Yeah, you and the tiger and Joe. It's like such a sexually charged threesome.
Do we need to leave you guys alone?
No, we prefer it if you stay.
Yeah.
I'll just be the voyeur.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do you guys think about the defund the police uh, call? I saw that at the first person that I saw, majorly say that maybe we should have a different term than defund the police was George Takei. He
Yeah.
said demilitarize the police as opposed to defund the police. I want to know, A, if you guys think that it is a problematic name, defund the police, and B, if you like how you feel about the concept.
I love it, and I think they should even add demilitarization as well, because
Mhm.
it's almost like two different sources. They have like heavy unions, and I was saying in the beginning about how frustrated is that all this shit show, and thanks for the technology, at least how many cases got caught in camera, but imagine how many wasn't on camera.
Mhm.
And at the same time, they have a source from the federal government. They get like some crazy shit gadgets that, I mean, it's just like, I mean, it's ridiculous. I remember when there was the Boston bombing, and I mean, it was a tragic, it was a terrorist act. But how bizarre was they're finding two guys, almost was those post-apocalyptic movie that you see tanks on. Why you need tanks to choose two running away guys, right? They're just like want to use the gear and go batshit crazy, and so I think like the both terms should be used heavily. And finally, I don't recall you hearing the funding, and I'm very happy to hearing that they need to be every whatever reason they use again automatically they need to be investigated to see what was the reasons for that, and you see you know how stupid it usually is. And there is some other solutions like Oregon. They're talking today on the radio. What's Eugene, Oregon?
Mhm.
So there is that city. They have like if you call 911, they have a task force that usually they just remediate, and none of them they have guns, and they're running for more than 30 years, and they solve how many cases. And if you see the total bill, like, I mean, just being thinking about costs, it's ridiculous, like how much they're saving money, but at the same time, like, they don't have guns, and they remediate and help like the community, just with a conversation.
Yeah, but Eugene is a unique place. Eugene is Lawrence on steroids. One of the more liberal places I've ever seen in my life. It's like if you don't own Birkenstocks, you're not even allowed to enter Eugene. It's like the most liberal. It's like the most liberal place you can imagine. It's wonderful. I like demilitarize. I think defund the police is going to hurt the Democrats in the elections because defunding the police sends the wrong message and it's going to be weaponized by the right. They're going to say that the Democratic Party is the party of disorder and chaos and anarchy. They will bring up countries that didn't have
Yeah.
police, like Somalia. They will bring up, it will give too much arsenal to the right, to the far right. Demilitarize the police is good. Reorganize. I like words that start with RE as opposed to DE. Reorganize, restructure, um, um, remodel.
Rethink. Also, like rethink, because I think just the people who join a police force or something like that, I think you get very two polar opposites. You get people who want to help people. They want to get bad guys off the street. They want to do good things. And then it's also a magnet for those people who want to be tough guys, have their bad thoughts in their head, and feel that this is a way that they can make that happen. So rethinking all of that is important too. But I like your point of the RE versus DE as a
Yeah,
good
I
thing.
don't know what you guys think. Jamie?
I really want you to get Jeremy out behind you, though. Wow.
I like it.
Thank
Oh.
you. Okay, that's better. Good guy.
I don't. I don't know. I like the. I feel like defund the police is a little bit distant in sort of like the meaning behind it. Like we're not literally talking about defunding the police. We're talking about reorganizing the funds. So I think the RE makes more sense. But I also don't think that demilitarize the police is going to go very far because of the mentality that you were just talking about, Kay. There is this. I mean, it has permeated, police departments, the police culture, that it is a war, us versus them. I personally find it hilarious that like the police have adopted like the thin blue line as their like internal motto, since it's a 1980s movie about corrupt cops. Like there is something incredibly ironic about that. Or maybe not ironic. Maybe the problem is that they are being very blatant with the fact that it is us versus you people that we're being paid to protect and serve. And if it comes down to it, you know, we will get you before you get us. Maybe that's the point. Maybe I've been looking at it all wrong. So that being the notion, that being the idea behind the police right now, I don't think demilitarize the police will go very far. That's my problem. Um, so between the two, quite honestly, I would pick defund the police over demilitarize the police. But I like Evo's outside the box thinking, and maybe we should be looking at something completely different because we're not talking about eliminating the police. We're not talking about simply taking all of their toys away. We're talking about giving the folks that are in charge of protecting and serving narrower parameters to do that job and making it easier for them and us as a consequence.
Right here.
Which, quite honestly, are you leaving us, Fernando? Hey,
No.
hey,
Hey,
Andre, how you
Andre.
doing?
He's good. He's going to a trip.
Oh, very cool, very
I'm
cool.
going to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
What is in Minnesota, dude?
Harry's aunt.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
protests.
Yeah.
Big.
Have a good trip. Call me if you
Careful,
text me, okay?
From what Lou was saying before, I think Evo, you need to write another essay and send it in. So.
Yeah. Alena had a suggestion about that essay. Remember, you told me to find
Oh
it.
yeah. I don't know if I can talk about defund the police.
Yeah.
The discourse that I've been reading online just from like my group of friends is that defund the police is about like funding other community programs that can deal with the same problems the police deal with. So like if the issue is somebody struggling with a mental illness, there would be like a mental health team and a social worker that show up to their house, police, like armed police officers. Or if there's a domestic violence issue, you have like somebody trained and that has experience working with victims of domestic violence, help extract that person from that situation and help find them like a safe place to stay. Because the police don't do a lot. In my experience, just in Chicago, I've only ever called the police once, and it was because of a domestic violence issue in my apartment complex.
Yeah.
That I didn't know how to handle. Like I didn't feel like I could handle.
You couldn't
Because
help
I
the
just
person.
feel like I couldn't. Yeah, I felt like I couldn't help them.
Yeah.
And then the police showed up and like talked to them for 10 minutes and left. So
Left or laughed? Left.
they left. They
Left.
showed up.
They laughed. It was like,
No.
There was no woman, right? There
It
was
was
no.
two. Yeah, it was two guys. It was a gay couple, and they talked to them for 10 minutes, and then didn't. I mean, I just wanted that dude like taken away from the apartment.
Yeah.
So that I didn't even think he needed to be arrested. He just needed to not be in the apartment, which is maybe something a domestic violence counselor would be able to do better than a police officer. I don't know.
No, it's insane that we expect police to do all of these things, and quite honestly, they have a problem getting the basic stuff done right now. So, yeah, if we can get the people that are trained to handle those kinds of things versus someone that's been in, a policing class for 6 months or a year.
And if they can vet people, can we have a structured system for vetting out open white supremacists, right-wing, extreme right-wingers, people that traffic in hatred all the time. Can we vet those people before you give them the power to carry a gun and the executive power over human life?
Because they self-identify. Eva, what the hell?
They do on social media. They do. You can do it. Nowadays it's easy. This guy had a long history. You know, the people that killed Eric Gardner had a long history of this kind of behavior. You know, employees nowadays go to your social media pages, and it's allowed, and it's even expected when you're hiring someone to go to their social media and vet them, and they can do that now. You know, and they're not doing.
Right, but wasn't he a long-term police officer? So long time ago they could have vetted him, right? But how many years was he on the force?
I don't remember. He was on there long enough to gather up, what was it, like 12 different charges of police misconduct?
Right.
So
Right.
we can say a significant amount of time for sure.
Petty details,
Somebody's
Louis.
got a beeping behind them, and there's like a beeping or a high ring somewhere.
Oh, I'm in a room with a window unit air conditioner. That might be it.
Okay.
Here, does it go away?
Out, so if I run away, it's because my cat's about to attack me. She's very concerned
Gotcha.
about it.
No, does she have a lot of? She has a lot of. Yeah.
She's got cerebellar hypoplasia, so she's in it. So, yeah.
We don't want you to have plastic surgery because of this. That would suck.
Yeah. Who's gonna pay for that? So.
None of us.
Well, maybe she can attack me just appropriately where I want plastic. Hit me.
You know, maybe it's important, and you guys tell me how you feel about this, but I feel like things are interconnected with the protests and all of this discontent that has swept the country. It's important to indicate that it's not just the institutionalized racism that is behind this discontent. I feel like the middle class has disappeared. We are functioning basically in a plutocracy and oligarchy, where, you know, you remember the previous big protest was the 99%. I think this was a precursor, because that ever since the 99% protests, that top 1% has got even more powerful and richer, and have usurped even more of the capital in the country. And we've gotten to a point where that we basically have a society in which most of the people work in the service industry, or work sometimes two jobs to make ends meet, and you have a massive plutocracy that's getting richer and richer. And the pandemic exposed this even further. And we have such a shameless cabinet right now that they're not even shy. They gave each other trillions of dollars. So $2.2 trillion were printed for stimulus. And, you know, people got their $1,200 to pay the bills for a month.
Only once.
But yeah, but the richest of the rich gave each other hundreds of billions of dollars, including some ridiculous hundreds of billions of dollars for real estate owners, for big real estate developers like Donald Trump. He gave himself billions of dollars. So people had it at this point. And it's a combination of things. It's where society's headed. It's just the impossibility to achieve upward mobility, and it's the racism and everything else put together. So we are now in a situation where we are close to a revolution.
So I'm kind of like of two minds, Evo. I am simultaneously like, I'm hopeful that what you are saying is at least a part of it. But right now it's about cops killing us. And I want that to stop, and I want that to be the focus. And what my hope is that we have enough people that have grown up uh, believing that there wasn't racism anymore, that when they saw George Floyd literally being killed online by a cop, being casually killed by a cop, that it was just one straw too far, one step too far, and that uh, now all of the things that Kaepernick was kneeling for and has been kicked out of the NFL for, and all of the news stories that pop up daily, if not weekly, daily, about cops killing some unarmed black person, that the society has finally said enough is enough. And honestly, I don't know what part the quarantine and the lack of being able to go out and do your own thing has played into it, whether or not it's making us just more empathetic. But I do know that like we hear enough stories of my folks being killed by cops for doing nothing. You've got Breonna Taylor literally like sleeping in her own damn
Brianna.
bed and having cops come in and shoot her while she's asleep. Like, what the fuck? How much farther can this go before something has to change? And so for me, I'm super super hopeful that uh, the the protests are focused with laser-like singularity on the fact that cops are killing black folks left and right without impunity. But I do also at the same time want there to be this sea change that we can make our country a better place universally. But I do. This is what I'm interested in right now.
Okay, what's next?
I don't know. I think we got about 5 minutes. So let's talk, because we just spent a whole hour talking about that, and I'm sure we could do another hour talking about it.
Let's make another. Can you extend a half an hour, or you guys not?
I don't know. So let's
Jeremy,
assume.
Jeremy's not here. You can make the rules.
No. I don't know that I can extend the Zoom meeting because I scheduled it for an hour. So
No,
right.
that doesn't matter. That actually does not matter.
Okay, gotcha.
You've got the pro settings, right? Because the pro
Yes.
settings will let you do up to so many people for as long as you want. And it's just, I did a on the very little time that I'm not watching TV, I actually did a tutorial. And so it's just the recommended time.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Unless you haven't paid for the pro version.
Uh-huh.
And then it'll probably put up a warning to you. But you could then set it off to me to be the leader since I've got the
full version. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We're
Awesome.
good on all of that.
All right. Then let's switch and let's talk about hobbies. Has anybody started a new hobby since the quarantine started? Okay, I'm going to take that as a resounding no.
No, we have.
I wrote a movie.
Did you really?
Yeah, I wrote a whole movie. So I guess that's a hobby.
Yeah.
So, like, is this a legit movie? Are you trying to, like, put it together and, like, film it in the whole shebang?
Yeah.
Or are you, like, trying to sell it?
I would really like to do some kind of like that. There's a bunch of screenplay competitions and stuff. Where, like, there's one for Sundance where you go to this, like, thing called Sundance Labs for 2 weeks. And you do like a writing lab on your screenplay, and you can meet like producers there. A lot of people meet producers there.
Cool.
And so like that, or like any kind of way I can get it done, really.
Yeah, she just finished it, and it translates to 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's your first full screenplay. You've written smaller stuff, but
yeah.
And there's a Sundance contest for screenplays, which which you will fit in the deadline with.
Yeah.
It. So
if I can edit it.
That was a fun project, and that's one of the things that the pandemic gave us. It gave us unexpected time because we cut time from commute, in many ways we were able to focus more on certain things. Like I mentioned, yeah?
Like drinking.
Yeah, of course. I actually discovered and released Kraken, if you can see it. Kraken is right here. I don't know. Whoa.
Now you're gone, Ivo.
You're gone.
Let me change the background and see if it will allow me. It still doesn't allow.
Try
There's a
holding it
line,
next to
right?
your face.
The Kraken.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh-huh. Yep, there it is.
It's completely released. There's like a little bit left. So yeah, no, we consumed industrial amounts of alcohol. We finished
No, I said new hobbies.
new hobbies. Yeah, like I mentioned last week, we finished Netflix. You
The
know,
whole, all of Netflix, all of
all of
Netflix.
Netflix is finished now.
Okay.
Then we played an unexpectedly hilarious board game that Alena signed us up for the coolest thing.
Oh yeah.
Alena was contacted by a company that manufactures this game,
ooh.
right?
Which game?
The game we played.
The one online?
Yeah, no, not the online
The
one.
Cards Against Humanity?
The Cards
Oh, yeah.
Cards Against Humanity.
You've never played Cards Against Humanity,
No, we
Evo?
played Cards Against Humanity. We got a new beta version
Yeah.
of Cards Against Humanity that has not been released on the market, and we got to be the test public for the game. We had to
Wow.
we had to film ourselves for an hour playing the game so they can study our reactions and how we played it and decide whether to release it on the market.
That's
We had it-
hysterical. That is
We had to-
hysterical.
We had to tell him which cards offended us. We might have been the wrong group for that test.
I was gonna say, what cards
No,
would have
no.
offended you?
None of them offended us, but some of them would offend others, but none of them offended us.
Wow.
I want to be in that beta group.
Yeah, that was a
That
great
sounds awesome.
experience.
Uh-huh. So did you guys get to keep the game once you were done?
Yeah.
We another hobby that
So we can.
Can I rent it from you? Can I borrow?
Oh, that sounds like you're gonna be in legal trouble there.
yeah, you might
Maybe.
be
I
right.
don't know. They weren't clear with me about
I can bring good wine. I can bring you some good wine. So, just saying. Or booze. You know, that kind of thing. Since City Wine Market, since I work there, so you know.
It was crazy. I've never played a game like this. It was insane. It was really, they were really testing stuff and pushing the boundaries of what's accepted. It was really, there was nothing politically correct about this game. Nothing. It was crazy.
Ooh, that brings to mind a completely unrelated question. I was asked by my 10-year-old son to explain political correctness to him. How would you explain political correctness to a 10-year-old?
This is why I forgot to have children. Yeah. Couldn't.
Well,
And on that note, I'm going to go fill up my wine. I'll be
Mm.
back.
We apparently we never explained it to Emil.
no.
He has
I guess
no
you
idea what
could
it is.
say it's sort of like being appropriate with what's happening socially and culturally within society when you talk to people.
Yeah.
Well, but his question was, why are people making fun of people for being politically correct?
I guess that would be more like, I don't know if this is too complicated, but like there's a lot of irreverent humor in the world, and I think that people mistake thought out irreverent humor
Mm-hmm.
with just being mindlessly politically incorrect.
Uh-huh.
But like thought out humor is almost never politically incorrect because the point is to show what's politically incorrect in society when you do something like that. So people who don't understand comedy are confused right now.
Gotcha.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
It absolutely does, which brings to mind another completely unrelated question. What are your thoughts, specifically, Alena, about like Jimmy Fallon's blackface, or who else was just recently like got a ton of shit for doing a blackface skit like in the late 80s, early 90s?
oh man, I didn't even hear about this.
Oh, but so Jimmy Fallon dressed up as Chris Rock for his SNL skit, and he darkened his skin when he did it. And so, like, he got a ton of shit for it. And it's just like you say, like the comedians, they're like, there was a point to it, like, uh, you know, slow down. But, you know, Jimmy Fallon apologized about a million times. And there was a huge, you know, let's get rid of Jimmy Fallon's campaign that started up because of it. Um, I
I
am,
want
go ahead,
to.
go ahead.
Well, like I rewatched Trading Places a while ago.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you guys remember that
Oh,
movie.
of course.
We
That,
do.
I forgot that had a blackface scene in it
Hmm.
at the end
Hmm.
with Dan Aykroyd.
Yes.
Um,
It's just the
Yeah.
attitude has changed since then towards that, because that
well,
I
don't
don't remember
know.
that ever being brought up in the 80s or 90s.
But also there was not a place for people to voice individual issues they had with things they were watching at that time. You know, like now, if you have a personal issue with something, you can like have a platform to let people know.
And
So
they
maybe,
haven't like banned that movie at all. I mean, people still love that movie, even though it has that in there. But that hasn't become an issue for that movie, so that's interesting. And
that's
then,
yeah. Sorry.
and then I was gonna say, and then Lou, I've got a related question on that. So, like, since I'm a theater person, and we've had shows like Ragtime, where it is when we have to cast people for a show that is showing three different ethnicities. So you've got uh, you're white, you're black, and you're Jewish. And it was very interesting when I've been to the two theaters that I've been involved with that did put the show on, how we would have to announce auditions for that, going because of the nature of the show, and it is about race and it is about ethnicity. We are looking for African Americans to play these parts. We are looking for people who could pass as white or pass as, and that was a big part of that, because I don't know if some of these older shows or some shows at all could get the point of their stories across, of the cultures and that kind of thing, if they didn't have a black man playing a black man, or if they
Hmm.
didn't have a white woman playing a white woman with her little parasol
Right.
or whatever. So I'm curious about your thoughts on that, because it was in the two theaters that I've worked for, it was an interesting thing that we had to deal with. So.
I think if you, and you know, I'm not speaking for all black people, I'm speaking for me. I think that if it is done from a place of respect and from a place of um, sort of uh, 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 conditioning what the audience is about to see and why they're about to see it, and talking about the uh, political, like small p political, social um, significance of the piece, and like doing it in a critical manner, then go for it. Outside of that, then those plays shot probably should just be put to rest. Is how I
Well,
feel about it.
something like Ragtime is great, or like The Color Purple, which they've just recently put out a few years ago, the musical version of it, and it's absolutely fabulous.
Hmm.
But I don't think that you could have a white person cast in a black role. I
Right.
just don't think, even if we're supposed to be blind to that, that would work,
If you're
because
being blind to it, it's not going to work. That's
right,
ultimately my point. Like if the role is, if race is significant, then race should be significant. So
okay,
um yeah, the notion that you can be blind to it is just, I don't have time for it. Like
yeah,
if you can't find a black person to be in Ragtime, then I probably don't want to see your
right. So
versions of
we
Ragtime.
had to really work on our wording of how to make it
Hmm.
important, that we really wanted to keep it respectful for all the different genres. But yes, if we couldn't find enough African Americans to
Hmm.
cast that portion of the show, we weren't going to do it, because it just wasn't going to work right. And fortunately, it was the first show that Theater Lawrence put on in the new building, and it was phenomenal. And we got amazing cast that was just beautiful all the way around, and amazing singers, and it was really cool. But it was a very challenging issue to have to deal with. So
It should be a challenging issue. Like I applaud you guys for doing it, for dealing with it in that way. Like I said, the two things that would have been supremely disappointing is if you hadn't uh, been as cognizant of it, that it was a challenging place to be, or if you just, like I said, decided not to deal with it at all. I think that what this time period in American history should hopefully be remembered as the time where we all start reflecting on, what's important regarding race. Like, I would personally like to never hear anybody ever again say, "I don't see color," or "I don't see races when I look at people." Like, that's so ultimately demeaning. Um, so yeah, I think that it's super, super important to recognize the uh, sorry, I'm freaking out because I'm thinking of red rum right now. Red rum.
Yeah, we.
You saw
Hey,
my
Ivo, be careful. There is two girls behind you guys. Be careful.
Okay,
So,
we're gonna change it with Alena.
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, even
Oh,
better. Much better.
wow.
Stay in the middle, Alena.
how do I get there?
Yes. Oh, that's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. So yeah. Did like
What happened?
I don't know.
Dude,
She froze on my screen and now she's gone. So yeah,
gosh.
but that's all right.
Well, she if she had trouble, just she need to ring Jordan Peele. He probably gonna find someone to cast to be part of the
Let's hope.
right.
Yeah. So, well, we have been going now for what, just over an hour and 10 minutes. So I'm kind of feeling like it's maybe a good time to call it a show.
Pull the plug. It's about time. We didn't talk that much about hobbies, but I'm sure everybody's done some gardening and home improvement
Yes,
during this time.
yes. I just installed Teletubbies. I just installed shelves in the laundry room. It took me only 12 hours, but that's only because Nana kept changing her mind. But we got it done finally, so that's been my big project for the quarantine. But yeah.
Well,
Don't
until
victim blame.
I'm the victim, thank you.
I don't know. She's probably thinking she's the victim after that kind of talk.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and call it a night. We've already lost one of our panel members, and I want to say thank you all for popping in and sharing your thoughts with us. And hopefully, we will see you all again next week when we do this again, and maybe we'll actually get through a few more topics on our list. Until then, this
All right.
is Luis, Fernando, Jamie, Evo, Alena, and Kay, wherever she went, signing. Oh, there's Kay back. I'll let her in just so that she can hear us say goodbye.
Hey, Kate.
Hey, Kay, are you? Hey, did you freeze up on us? Hey, I like the crown.
I do too. That's lovely.
Oh, cool.
Are you there?
Oh, the phone here, like it's mute.
Yeah.
unmute
Okay.
your-
There you
Here we
are.
go.
sorry, my power just went out, and my neighbor just texted me, and her power's out, so I lost
Internet.
Wi-Fi. I lost everything, and so
the police.
No worries.
Police.
No,
Pull the plug
It's
on.
the
it was
And blue
Putin.
line.
Yes. All right. Well, I was actually just getting ready to sign off because we've been going at it for a little bit over an hour. So I've kind of already said most of my goodbyes. I was just logging you back in so you could hear me say to everybody, see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
okay.
All right.
Let's talk about more fun stuff, though.
All right. Sounds good.
all right.
Bye-bye.
See you guys. Bye.